signed the lease on the space, and we purchased the most expensive thing in here, which is the 5 yogurt machines and the new cooler and the new freezer. We purchased all that stuff within weeks before the world shut down.
On this episode of How I Built This Petoskey, we met with Charis Larson and Suzanne Sipe, the co-owners of the new yogurt shop in the area, to get some insight on the up-and-coming of this new business and industry. Snickerdoodles is a colorful, family-oriented frozen yogurt and bubble tea shop that is located off of Anderson Road. It is a great place to go for a differentiated dessert or unique tea, and today it is a subject of our podcast.
I am Charis Larson. I grew up in a little suburb south of or north of East Lansing called Langsburg, where my family still live. I went to a small little school, went away to college, came back, and finished up just at a community college. So I didn't actually have a full-on formal college background. I got right into hospitality, which is, I feel like, if you don't have a college degree, which is opposite of what Suzanne did. I got into hospitality, hotels, and worked myself up to sales managers at a couple different properties. And then I moved up to Petoskey, worked at the hotel, because that's where I had been in hotels. And then very quickly transferred to the marketing department and worked there for over 10 years, worked myself up from many positions all the way to the associate director of marketing before I left. And so that was pretty exciting. What else? You want to know how I started here, or is that?
We'll have Suzanne introduce herself first.
Okay. I'm Suzanne Sipe, and I am originally from Michigan. I grew up in a small town a couple hours south of Petoskey. I went to Central Michigan University for my bachelor's degree, and I finished up my senior year was out in Boston. I moved back to Michigan for a few years, then moved to Colorado for 6 years, then back to Michigan again, and often worked in resort hotels and resort properties, restaurants, banquet departments, convention services, that sort of thing. And so that's where like my food background and my hospitality background comes from. I met Charis when we were both working at Odawa Casino, and I worked there for 17 years. I started out in convention services, and by the time I left, I was the assistant director of hospitality. So I was in charge of non-gaming revenue. I was over hotels, banquets, and catering, and the sales department. But really decided after that many years that I was just kind of ready for a change, and that sort of environment was it was difficult for that many years. So a change was due. I left and got a full-time job at the Petoskey Area Visitors Bureau, and knew that I needed to do something else, and that was when Charis and I started talking about this.
So how did you guys get to like a frozen yogurt shop out of everything that you could have chosen? How come frozen yogurt and bubble tea as well?
Well, okay, so I had started talking to Suzanne about going into business together. And so because our backgrounds are hospitality, we actually looked at other businesses first and looked at plans, looked at properties, other things that were for sale. Without actually talking to each other before, I had always thought that there needs to be a soft serve place in Petoskey that's open year round, but we hadn't really talked about that. And then Suzanne, when we were discussing other businesses that weren't really going to be feasible for budget wise, and she's the one that said, what about frozen yogurt? And I said, well, yes, because I had thought that we needed soft serve, so frozen yogurt. And the more that we dived into the frozen yogurt business model, the more and more the numbers made sense. And then some of the frozen yogurt places that we researched had bubble tea, and there is no bubble tea up here. So that was a very easy combination. Am I missing anything there, Suzanne?
Well, I would just say that the different ideas that we started with, you know, banquet venues, hotels, different things, were very cost prohibitive. And especially when we didn't already own something that we had for assets. And so in order to even talk about getting a loan, and even through the Small Business Administration, because we're women, you know, there's supposed to be so many opportunities. But when we started researching some of these things, they didn't even really want to talk to us, you know. And so we knew that we weren't going to be able to get a loan for, you know, $250,000 or, you know, whatever. We had to do something that was more within our reach. And so something that was smaller that we could, you know, purchase everything to start it up, like with a relatively small investment, was just more the way to go for us.
So you mentioned like having a little bit of money before to start up the shop. Like how specifically did you like fund it? Was it just like money that you guys had saved, or?
It was our save. Yeah.
It was my retirement.
Yeah. Both of our retirement funds.
I'm sure it was very scary to
put that on the
that,
line.
Yeah.
Still is.
I bet.
Because I mean, you know, less than a year out, neither one of us have recovered that. So,
right.
But yeah, I mean, that our
you work for years and years to put money in in your retirement account, and then you just, you know, you're like, I'm gonna take all that today, you know, and
Would you say it's been worth the risk so far?
Oh yeah.
Oh, for sure.
That's good.
Yeah.
How did you guys get the name Snickerdoodles?
Suzanne?
Yeah, so that's a shout out to my mom. We were coming up with some different things, and I was tossing around ideas, and I apologize for my congestion. Tossing around some ideas, and my mom loved soft serve and loved snickerdoodles, and she made them for everyone in the free world.
Right, when you were in college and you were or just lived away, she would send
boxes of snickerdoodles in crates, and she'd like handing out snickerdoodles to all my friends. Snickerdoodles went to Boston, snickerdoodles went to Colorado, snickerdoodles, I mean, like, she would freeze them so that they could ship as fast as possible. And when my brother was in the Marine Corps, she was shipping snickerdoodles like to Japan. You know, snickerdoodles have been everywhere.
Yeah.
And so that was just part of the whole mindset that we wanted to have, you know, that just along with that same theme for how we wanted people to be, just snickerdoodles.
And part of that,
says it all.
and part of the name of Snickerdoodles is the actual doodle part. And this is the part of the COVID-19 that we were not able to implement into our business. So we were going to have a doodle wall, a full wall where there was going to be markers and colored pencils and literally a roll of paper you could go up to and pull off and doodle. We were going to have a doodle of the day and some doodling contests. We were going to have books that you could go in and look and like just have that creative place. Get inspired, yeah. So we were going to be that Snickerdoodles was the doodle. We were going to go off that doodle, but now because of COVID, we're not sure when we're going to be able to implement that.
I know that you guys weren't like anticipating on opening during like a pandemic, but how would you say that like affected your business? Because I would say that's a very unique time to open and start, especially like food.
It's bad.
Continue,
so we signed the lease on the space, and we purchased the most expensive thing in here, which is the 5 yogurt machines and the new cooler and the new freezer. We purchased all that stuff within weeks before the world shut down. And as a result, we didn't even have a building permit for the property yet. We couldn't even access the building to work on anything because we didn't have a building permit. We couldn't get any work done in the space. We were just, the brakes were hit and we couldn't do anything. And so that was very frustrating.
Yeah, so we had
just watching money just, fly out the checkbook because we still had to pay for everything.
Mm-hmm.
The lease was, in motion. We're paying for the rent on this place and the utilities and the lease on the equipment and and all that kind of stuff. Paying, and you can't do anything. So we got off to a late start. We opened 2 months later than we intended to, and then even though summer was strong, July and August, we still haven't reached full capacity. We still haven't even realized our full business model yet. There's more that we intended to do here that we still can't do as a result of COVID-19, and we couldn't have a grand opening celebration. Mm-hmm. We couldn't, we couldn't have group business. We can't have birthday parties. Yeah. We can't, there's so many things that we still can't do. And at 50% capacity, the reality is inside here, the 50% capacity thing really probably didn't hurt us that much. But what did hurt us is when everything shut down for indoor dining and just the fear that people had. They weren't going over there for dinner, and they weren't going over there to go shopping, and they weren't going over there just to look around and browse and whatever. People stayed home, and people were afraid to go out. So as a result, they didn't make that impulse purchase and just swing in to get frozen yogurt. Or they weren't just, having dinner over here and deciding to come to us for dessert. So it still continues to impact us.
Mm-hmm. Besides the pandemic, what were some other obstacles that you'd have to overcome, and how did your mindset help you do this?
We're going to talk about the loan and that we couldn't get the loan.
Oh yeah, so going back to that, so even so we had seed money to start out with, but we then decided that, when we did all the numbers, that we needed an additional amount for a loan. And we went in to apply, and we basically got denied. We were too small. The assets that we had, the machines that we wanted to, they weren't enough that they felt to cover all of that. And so here we are stuck. We were like, okay, we can't get the loan. And we figured it out. We do have seed money, and we're just going to make it work. And we actually did. We actually, tens of thousands under budget of what we anticipated to open. We made it work. And part of that is, Suzanne does all of our buying. And part of it was that we went to auctions. We chose, used equipment. We chose other avenues to, we made adjustments to that budget to make it work. And right. I think the determination was that we're doing it, and so we got to figure it out. There is no fail. There is no stopping.
Right. One of the challenges that we hit with that loan process is that by looking at each of us individually in our business, they didn't feel confident enough that they could loan us that money. They said that the only way that they were able to do that is if we got our husbands involved, and then put our homes up as collateral.
Yep.
Because we each are homeowners.
Yeah.
And we're like, no, that's not going to happen, because number one, that's not the way we wanted to go into this. Mm-hmm. But also our husbands probably wouldn't be real thrilled with that idea either.
Yeah,
sure.
And quite honestly, we were opening a store during a pandemic.
Yeah.
In a frozen dessert store in a northern climate, and we had a lot of confidence in what we were doing, but still there's that, it was unknown.
Yeah.
And so
Charis and Suzanne have also stressed all of the things that they have learned in the process of opening a new business from scratch. They not only learned to take risks, try new things, and have confidence in their ideas, but they also learned how to tap into an unpopular market in the area and make something big out of it, even during a worldwide pandemic.
How is the business currently going? How's revenue and such?
Oh, we're better than we anticipated for 2021. 2020 was, it was
rough.
Yes. We had to, to get through winter, positions were cut, hours were cut,
Salaries were cut.
cut. Yep.
We had to put more money into it.
Mm-hmm.
We had to make some investments of personal items and funds and stuff. I mean, we'd be going to the grocery store, buying, the fruit and stuff with our personal money and everything.
But 2021.
But 2021 is, we had a very strong March.
Yeah.
We're very weather driven. And so with that warm March that we had and the lack of snow, it's, you don't really know how the balance is until we probably get a couple years under our belt. But the people who would be up here skiing and vacationing and doing winter sports and all that kind of stuff, we lost that, but we gained the people who saw this beautiful 70-degree day in March, and so they're like, "Ooh, I want soft surf,"
Yeah,
So,
especially with bubble tea also, because it's not that cold.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and we have definitely noticed, our original business plan, we assumed that bubble tea would be about 8% of our business, and right now it's about 16% of our business. And a big part of that is that when the weather is colder and more nasty, we sell more bubble tea than when it's really hot. When it's really, really hot and humid and stuff, we sell more froyo.
This is it for this episode of How I Built This Petoskey. We thank you for tuning in, and we hope you enjoyed learning more about the new froyo business in town. And we hope to see you on the next episode.